What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am D-WIZZLE here with another movie review. Today we're going to be talking about Kung Fu Panda 4 that came out this past weekend. For those of you who don't know, I have talked about the previous three Kung Fu Panda films. If you guys haven't seen those reviews, check out my channel. Um, it was in the playlist of Kung Fu Panda, but I think I'm going to change that playlist to the DreamWorks playlist because I want to put all my future DreamWorks reviews in one playlist. But anyway, you can check out those reviews if you haven't seen them. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get into Kung Fu Panda 4. So, as I said before in the past, I think Kung Fu Panda is some of DreamWorks' best films. They are the most consistent franchise wise, and I think they're very underrated. I didn't think much of it when I first heard that they were making these films. Judging just from the title, Kung Fu Panda, it just seems so corny and cheesy and something that would be for little kids. But to my surprise, the first three movies are so good. They had no business being as good as it was. I thought the animation was beautiful. I thought the voice acting was great all around. The martial arts was really entertaining to watch, and just all the spiritual and heavy themes that I didn't expect an animated film to have. Those films are much more mature than people are giving it credit for. So those first three movies are great. I really enjoyed the first film. I love the second movie. That's probably my favorite. I enjoyed the third film. It's probably my least favorite of the three, but I still thought it was a worthy sequel to the first two films. So to my surprise, I didn't expect for them to make a fourth movie, because I felt like the third movie wrapped up the story pretty well. It's like, it had a pretty good beginning, middle, and end. So if the third movie was the final film, I would have been satisfied because Po unlocked his full potential of the Dragon Warrior and stuff like that, and he met his real father and stuff like that. So that felt like a natural conclusion. But of course, given that it is Universal who owns DreamWorks Pictures, of course, I shouldn't be surprised that they're trying to squeeze out another franchise. But regardless, I am still a fan. Like the first three are still good. So, it's a similar thing with Toy Story because everyone's complaining that, oh, we didn't need a third movie. Oh, we didn't need a fourth movie. But then both of those movies, not only did they have great critical scores, but they made billions of dollars. So, as long as the quality is good, I wouldn't mind going back to this world again. It took a while for them to make a sequel. It's even bigger of a gap between two and three. They waited like 8 years to make another sequel, which kind of surprised me. Especially because like it feels like people have forgotten about Kung Fu Panda for a while. So it's like I was surprised that they waited so long to make it. But looking at the marketing, it looks fine. It looked like another adventure that Poe has. Honestly, it didn't feel like as big as like the previous three movies. It felt like smaller in scale, which I guess it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but like, it honestly feels like one of those, you know, adventures that you would see on one of the spin-offs that Kung Fu Panda had, whether it was on like Netflix or his spin-off show from Nickelodeon. So I don't know. I wasn't expecting too much from it. And Awkwafina also being in this, I'm starting to warm up to Awkwafina. At first, I didn't really like her at all, but she's done voice acting before. She was in Raya and the Last Dragon, and she also voiced Scuttle in the live-action Little Mermaid. So I'm thinking her voice acting is one of her strengths. So maybe she'll pull off a good job here. And Viola Davis being the main villain, I was excited to see that because I love Viola Davis. So, I was hoping for the best, and hopefully it'll stay consistent with the quality of the first three. And unfortunately, I have to say that I was pretty disappointed in this film. I thought it was a step down, um, and honestly, this is the weakest of the four films, in my opinion. But I didn't think the movie was bad. I thought it was a good time. I still think there's enough in here where it's like, I don't think it's a bad film, but it honestly it's missing well, I wouldn't say it's like missing the heart because there's still heart in this movie, and I think that the character moments and like the spiritual themes are still in here somewhat, but it doesn't hit as hard as the previous three movies. Like I just really liked the more mature tones that the first three tried to have while they're balancing the comedy. Because I do think the comedy in these movies are done really well, but once again, I think this one is emphasizing a little too much on the humor, and there's not enough of those slow, mature themes that they had in the previous three movies. Like even in the third film, where I felt like it was starting to get in that direction, it still had some really good, good, themes and moments and spiritual messages in those. This one, I didn't feel like it had as much. And also, I feel like, as far as the continuation of Poe's, story, I felt like it didn't feel natural, because, and this is stuff that I'm talking about that they revealed in the trailer. So I'm not going to spoil anything, but they're pretty much having Poe pass down his Dragon Warrior, moniker to somebody else, and I didn't understand why we're doing this, because he just became like fully the Dragon Warrior at the end of the third movie, and we never really had a chance to, see him in his full potential. And now in this fourth film, he's now becoming a mentor, and he's about to train the new Dragon Warrior. And even when he doesn't want to, and it's like Master Shifu is like pushing him to do that even though he doesn't want to, and the reason being is because he's not a super serious person, and like he jokes around, but like we've established in the previous three movies that that's what made it so powerful, that he did become the Dragon Warrior, because he subverted everyone's expectations. Yes, he's a little more silly and he doesn't take everything he likes to have fun, but when he had to defeat the enemy, when he had to save the day, like he was always there. And that's what kind of helped to earn Master Shifu and the Furious Five's respect, is because he was able to prove everybody wrong. And it just feels like now that they're just forcing him to be in the same role that the Grand Master had, which I don't think that's a bad thing for him to eventually get to, but I think it's too soon, you know. Um, and then as far as Zen, played by Aquafina, the fox, I thought she was solid. I thought Aquafina did a decent job. Um, and once again, this is the typical, thief, liar, reveal story. Like we've seen this before, where it's like, Zen is a thief and is out for her own personal gain, and then Poe obviously sees potential in her and tries to teach her the right thing, and then she ends up warming up to him, and then they form a bond, and then some sort of betrayal happens towards the middle of the movie. Like it's that type of stuff. Like we've seen that typical thing, but at least with Zen, I found her a likable enough character, and she does have good enough skills where she could potentially, you know, have the baton passed to her. But I don't know. It just all just feels forced that they're doing this so quickly. Um, but I thought her action scenes were pretty good. She was able to stand toe to toe with Poe, so you see some potential there, I guess. Um, One other thing that bothered me, and that was one of the things that kind of gave me a little bit of a red flag when I saw the trailers, that there's no Furious Five in this movie. I mean, okay, I'm lying. They do make a very, very, very brief appearance in this movie, but they do not play a factor in the main plot at all. And I thought that it didn't feel right, because they were so important in the first two movies. And yeah, I criticized in the third film they didn't have as much to do, but they still had a presence. They weren't just background characters. And it just didn't feel right that they completely weren't in the film at all for the majority of the film. Like they don't they're not with Poe when they're following them on their journey with Zen. Like nothing. It's like, where did they go? And I would think, since Poe's about to pass on the role of the Dragon Warrior, that the Furious Five would have something to say about that, especially Tigress, because I think she had the closest connection to Poe, and it's like it's just so strange that they're not there. So, and even Master Shifu, like he is in the movie, but once again, his role is even less than it was in the third movie, and that kind of disappointed me as well. But as far as the main villain, the Chameleon, played by Viola Davis, as far as the voice acting, I think Viola Davis nailed it. I thought she was absolutely great. I don't think I could ever say anything bad about Viola Davis. She always puts her all in every role, and of course, I love her as Amanda Waller in the DC films. But that being said, I found her character to be a bit more one-dimensional. In my opinion, she's probably the weakest villain of the four movies. Now, like I said, like Viola Davis has a charismatic enough performance where it's like I'm not completely bored by her, and her gimmick is kind of cool. It makes her stand out from the previous three movies, but the reason why she didn't work for me as much as the previous films is because like her motivation is very inconsistent. Like her main vendetta is that she wasn't treated seriously of being a martial artist because she's small, which that doesn't make any sense because there are other animals in the previous movies, big and small, that are respected, highly trained martial artists. So why is she the one that's not being taken seriously as a possible kung fu master? So that's like her main vendetta in the film. And I want world domination, and I'm gonna take every ability of all the martial artists, and I'm going to shapeshift into them and take over the world. Like, definitely not as profound as the previous three films. And just like her abilities weren't very consistent either. Like she's able to shapeshift into other martial artists, but she isn't able to um, harness the martial arts techniques that each master has. She has to do a completely separate thing for that, which I don't know. That didn't sit well with me. Another thing that kind of bothered me is that you felt like this movie has a smaller budget than the previous three films. I mean, the animation is still gorgeous. It looks, consistent as far as like how it looks. But, you could tell that there are certain characters that return that were from the previous movies, and it felt like they couldn't afford to get the voice actors back. And so you have important characters from the previous movies that are just in the background that don't say anything. And that didn't feel right either. Like I don't know. It's like this really felt like more of a cash grab than the previous three films. Like I said, like I don't think this movie is awful. I do think there's entertaining fight scenes. I do think there's some decent character moments between, the main stars. Jack Black and Awkwafina have good chemistry. Viola Davis is great. You know, um, Mr. Ping and Lee are back, and they have a bigger role in here too. And I think the scenes that they have together, I think, are very entertaining. They're pretty funny together. Um, and also there's the other new characters. There's like this armadillo voiced by Ki Hoi Kwan. I love Ki Hoi Kwan. I'm glad that they were able to find a role for him in this movie. But there's this whole like underground like hideout that the armadillo's character and a bunch of other animals are in there, and there's these three little bunnies that are like cute little kid bunnies, but they're really really violent too, and they have jokes about that too, which I thought that was pretty funny. So it's like there's decent stuff in here where I don't think this is bad, but I definitely don't think that there is as much effort, story wise, and just the creativity. Like I feel like it was kind of lackluster compared to the previous three movies. But if you are a fan of the previous three movies, I guess I still think this is worth watching, and I think kids will enjoy this. I think kids will have a good time seeing this. I was in the theater with a bunch of kids, and they were having a great time. Jack Black once again is great. You feel like he's having fun in this role, so it's like he at least elevates the material alone. But but yeah, man, I guess I will give Kung Fu Panda 4 a B minus. It's good, but not something I feel like I want to watch over and over again. But those are my thoughts on Kung Fu Panda 4. What did you guys think about it if you guys have seen it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? How does it compare to the previous 3 movies? Do you want to see more Kung Fu Panda films after this? Because I've heard that they're trying to set up possibly another trilogy of Kung Fu Panda films. If they do continue after this point, I hope that the quality of the storytelling gets better and they give it a little bit more of a budget, because like the previous films were around 100 million, and this one only cost 85. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But if you guys enjoyed this review, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified on future videos I'll be doing. But that's all I have for you Kung Fu Panda fans, and I will see you guys next time. Talk to you guys later. Skadoosh!